So in this clip, I'm going to go through the procedure to send some automated exam feedback emails to students. Let me tell you what we need for this. Initially, a spreadsheet which has grading information for each student and for each question. So here's an example, a little mock example. We have 8 students, 4 questions, and for each student we know whether they've gotten the question right or wrong. So 1 or 0 here. And at the end we also have the total mark, which is just the sum of each row. Now these could also be, so these are here like in a multiple choice, right or wrong, but it also could be subgrades like 8 out of 10, 5 out of 15, 7 out of 10, just the marks overall. Okay, the same procedure would apply, but let's stick to the 1, 0 information only. So this, of course, would come from your exam scanner if you have a multiple choice exam, or when you have a written exam and you grade and have sub-marks for questions, you have to record that as you mark. So let's go back to our overview. The next thing we need is a table with question topics. So what do I mean with this? Let's go to a Word document in my case. In fact, this Word document will form the base for the email which will be sent to students. And let's say here we had 4 questions and just different topics for each question. If students know the exact questions, say from the exam paper, which they still have available, that's fine. But even if they don't have that, it's perfectly appropriate to just give topics. After all, you want them to revise the whole topic if they got something wrong. And so as we will send this out as an email later, we will also need the student's email address. So that information will go into the right column in the previous Word document, but then we need to know the student's email. So either you get that from your course administrator, or in the case of Manchester, it turns out that you can send emails in the following manner: the student ID and add student.manchester.ac.uk. All right? That will send an email to the email address of that student. Since we don't want to write that manually for each of the students, and you may have a lot of those, we need a more convenient way to create these email addresses, and we'll use the concatenate function in Excel, concatenate, and we begin with the student ID. So we highlight the student ID and then comma, and in inverted commas, whatever we want to add student.manchester.ac.uk. If you're not at Manchester, of course, you need to make sure you have a way to get these email addresses. So in here we have all the different email addresses. There's one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new column called test email, and into that column I will just enter my own email address. So in my case that's ralph.becker@manchester.ac.uk, and I will be using that to test the procedure. We're sending out sensitive information here. You want to test it before you actually send it out. You're going to test it on yourself. Okay, so the same email address for all students as the test email address. Now make sure that you save this Excel sheet somewhere where you know. So that means we've got our table of questions. Next, what we also need is, in my case, Microsoft Outlook and the desktop version, not just the web version. But I'm sure you can, other mail servers will work as well. And of course, we already started using that. We need Word, from which we will now use the mail merge function. But there may be other text editors that have a mail merge function that can send emails. So lastly, you really do need some time and a little bit of patience to do this all carefully. Remember, we are sending out great information. You want to make sure that A, the information is correct, and then B, it goes to the right people. Now we go back to our Word document that contains the email which we eventually want to send out. We will now have to populate this column here, the your grade information, and that will come from the spreadsheet which we just created and saved. Go to mailings and then start mail merge and choose email messages. Next, go to select recipients and choose use existing list, because we have all the information in our spreadsheet. So now you need to find where you saved the spreadsheet, and I have hidden it in some complicated folder structure. Here it is. I called it marks.xlsx. That is just that spreadsheet which we worked on before. So you say open, and then this has 3 sheets, and our data are on sheet 1. So I will have sheet 1 highlighted and click OK. If you now go to edit recipient list, you will actually see all the information from the table. Right? Everything is in here. That is basically the spreadsheet, and it's now available to Word. You could here filter. There's a filter option. So if you have lots of students and you only want to send emails to those who have failed, you could filter out depending on the overall mark. You can do all sorts of complicated stuff, but we keep it simple for the time being. So how do we get the student-specific information in here now? Go to Insert Merge field, and if you click onto that merge field, here we go, you will see all the column names. We will now just have to select the columns which we want. So Q1, that was the result, a student-specific grade for question 1, and then the same for questions 2, 3, and 4. And we can include the total grade for the student, which was just the sum of all of them. So in some way we are done. Right? That's everything we need to do. If you click on preview results, you can see how the email would look like for the first student. So questions 1, 3, and 4 are correct. Question 2 is incorrect, total grade of 3, and that is exactly what we see here. That's great. And you can click through all the different emails that have been drafted at this stage, not sent yet. Okay. So what I do next is I'll send these emails, but to myself, to just check that everything is okay. On the Finish and Merge button, I choose Send Email Messages, and in the To field, I now have to choose the email address, and I'll choose Test Email first. If you had student email, it would send to students, but I choose Test Email first. I have just some subject line. Econometric Semester 1 exam feedback, if that is the exam to which you send feedback. Mail format HTML works for me. Feel free to try other things, and I just click OK. So now in the background something has happened. These emails have been sent out. So if I go to my Outlook, I see that I actually received all these emails now. The first student had a grade of 3, so that's right. The second student actually got everything right, a grade of 4, and I could look at all these emails. I'll show you soon how you make sure that you don't get 300 such emails in case you have that many students. But before I do that, what I also want to show you, that if I go into my Sent Items folder in my Outlook, or in any other email software you have, if I go to the Sent Items folder, I can actually see that I sent all these emails. So the students will receive an email from Ralph Becker, in my case. If you want to send this test email only to a few, click on Edit Recipient List. You can see currently all students are ticked. Untick all and just tick a few. And if I now send the email, say to the test email address, I would have only received a few of these emails. Once you're happy that the emails which you have created are accurate and the information in the spreadsheet are correct, then we want to send the information to these student email addresses rather than the test email. So firstly, we select all our students again. Click all, and OK. And now we go to finish and merge and send email messages. And now in the to field, we would now choose the correct student email address. Now, as soon as you click OK, the magic will happen. Your email program will send out emails to each individual student, giving each individual student the information on which questions they got right or what grade they got in which question.